Hello. In this video I'm going to talk about how to set up the rows of a truth table. So remember first of all that a tautology is a sentence that is true in every situation, and that we use truth tables to find out whether or not a sentence is a tautology. So here we have a truth table for the sentence P or not Q. And if we look at this table as we've set it up so far, according to this table, P or not Q is a tautology because it's true on all of the rows of the truth table. But this sentence can be false. In particular, P or not Q is false when P is false and Q is true. But if we look, and that means that P or not Q is not a tautology. But when we look at this row, at this truth table, we don't have a row on which P is false and Q is true. We forgot that row. So this truth table is incomplete, right? This row is the one that it's missing. And this row is the one that shows that P or not Q is not a tautology. So when we set up a truth table, we need to make sure that we have enough rows on the truth table. When we build a table, and how do we know that we've included all the rows? Well, we need a row for each different way of combining truth values to the different sentence letters. And so the question for this video is, how do we do that? How do we make sure that we've put enough rows in our table? So we're going to use as an example this sentence, if P and Q, then Q or R. Now the first thing we need to observe about this sentence is that it has three letters in it, the letters P, Q, and R. The letter Q occurs twice, but the letters that occur in it are P, Q, and R. So there are three letters in it. So that's the first thing that we need to do, is identify which sentence letters occur in the sentence that we're doing the table for. Now if we are in the logic program, then and we're in a problem that asks us to set up the table. Some of them do, some of them don't. The ones you've already done, you didn't have to set up the table, but in some of the ones you will be doing, you do have to set up the table. The first thing you do is you put in the sentence letters here, and you separate them by a period. So in this case, for this problem, the sentence letters are P and Q. And so we enter those two sentence letters in this box, and we separate them with a period. If we had been setting up the table for the sentence if P and Q, then Q or R, then we would have put P, Q, and also an R here. But we're in this case, for truth table 2.0, the sentence we're looking at is if P then Q or if Q then P, so we would just put in P and Q separated by a dot. So the first thing we do is we enter each sentence letter separated by a period, and that means we need to find the sentence letters. So P, Q, or R has the letters P, Q, and R, whereas P or Q has P and Q. Okay, good. The second step is we have to decide how many rows to put down. How many should we make? Well, there's a formula for this. So you need to count the number of different sentence letters. So P or Q or R has 3, P or Q has 2. And then the table has 2 to the n rows, where n is the number of different sentence letters. So for example, in our case, with if P and Q, then Q or R, well, there are 3 letters because there's P, Q, and R. And so n is equal to 3. Okay, well, 2 to the 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, so 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, and so our table should have 8 rows, and that's exactly what it has right here. Now, if we pop over to the actual program, we'd say, okay, well, so back at this truth table 2.0.0, we have if P then Q or if Q then P. So we have sentence letters P and Q, which means there our n is 2. So we have 2 to the power of 2, so that's 2 times 2, and that is 4. So first, as I said, we put in the sentence letters. The second step, we put in the 4 here. And at that point, we're done with this stage, and so we would click OK. Now then we're going to have to fill in these boxes, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. So how do we fill in these boxes? Well, this is what it would look like. We'd start in this column, and then we'd write a T, and then an F, a T, and an F, a T, and an F, a T, and an F. Now what about the next column? Well, we'd start by writing 2 t's, and then we write 2 f's, and then we write 2 t's, and then we write 2 f's. And what about the next column? Well, here we write 4 t's, and then we would write 4 f's. So how does this work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. We start in the rightmost column that were besides the sentence, so just in the columns for the sentence letters, we start in the rightmost one. And we just go T, F, T, F. So we have 1 T, and then 1 F, 1 T, and then 1 F until we're done, and we get to the bottom of the column. And then we go to the next column to the left. And then in this column, we double the T's and F's. So we'd have TT, FF, TT, FF. So we'd have 2 T's, and then 2 F's, and 2 T's, and then 2 F's until we're done. And we repeat this. So then if there are more columns, we go to the next column to the left. And again, we double the T's and the F's. So in the previous column, we were doing 2 T's and then 2 F's. So this time we do 4 T's, and then 4 F's, and then 4 T's, and then 4 F's until we're done. So if we go and look at the logic program, okay, so we start in the rightmost column. So we go T, then we go F, T, F. Now, so we're done with this column. We're going to go to this column. How many do we do here? We double it, so we go, instead of 1 T and then 1 F, we're going to have 2 T's and then 2 F's. So 2 T's, 2 F's. And there we go. They're all done. Now, if we had made a mistake, it will tell us, okay? But to avoid the mistake, you just go TF, TF, and then double. And if there had been P, Q's, and R's in this one, then there would have been more rows, and we would have had an extra column, and we would have doubled again. So we would have done 4 T's and then 4 F's. Okay, good. So those are the 3 stages to setting up the table. You enter each sentence letter, separated by periods. You enter the number of rows, and then you fill in the T's and the F's. So when we look at this truth table that's now set up, it's not done, but it's set up. We've set the rows up. We have a column for each sentence letter, so column for P, column for Q, column for R. There are 3 of them, so we should have 2 to the 3 rows. 2 to the 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, so 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, and we have 8 rows. Good. And then we need to fill in these columns. So in the rightmost column, we alternate TF, TF, TF. In the next column, we double the alternation, so we go TT, FF, TT, FF. And in the final column, we double the alternation again, so we go TT, TT, FF, FF. And so that's what you need to know to set up a truth table row. And you'll have to do that for some, but not all of the truth table problems that you'll be doing going forward.